Hello, everybody. This is CJ McKenna back once again for week 2 of talking about the Sensitive Nachos. This week we'll be discussing the EP A Sensitive Christmas, released December 25th, 2014. Now, before we go ahead and start talking about the EP, I kind of want to backtrack a bit. I want to make these videos an oral history of the Sensitive Nachos, so I'll be discussing things that happen in between records, as well as the records themselves. So we last left off talking about the release of Under the Influence, and how we promoted it to friends at school, we made CD copies, we even played that live in the lunchroom set in the cafeteria to ourselves. So after all that stuff, I remember being really anxious. All I wanted to do was record our second album right away. I had so much fun recording Under the Influence for those 2 weeks, and I couldn't wait to get back into the cafeteria and start doing it again for album 2. Especially because, I felt really disappointed in the quality and the performances on Under the Influence at the time, that I wanted to just make a second album right away and just improve on the first one in every single way possible. But Thomas had other plans. He didn't want to record. I remember I kept waiting for him to bring in some new beats or, for us to start working on a song in the cafeteria, but he just had no interest. Instead, he would show me these pop punk songs that he wrote by himself in his room, and it was pretty clear that he wanted to go in that direction. He wanted to record pop punk songs in his room like the old days, not really do the whole rap TSN thing anymore. And it was really bumming me out, because all I wanted to do was write and record in the cafeteria, because I had so much fun doing it in those 2 weeks. And one day, Thomas realized that it was kind of bumming me out, so he decided to do something pretty nice. He brought in a beat, and we started working on a new song together. This is probably, I would say, in May of 2014, so it was still that same school year, and we were still in the same cafeteria. And we decided to start working on this song called The Cupcake Song. Now, I don't remember too much about The Cupcake Song, but I think its sole purpose was pretty much to just make me happy for that one day. It didn't really spark any new interest in starting the band again, but we often talk about this song in particular because none of us have a copy of it. For some reason, when we finished the song that day, Thomas never decided to send me a copy, and now the song has been completely lost ever since we wrote it back in 2014. And, Thomas and I often talk about that song, like, I wonder what that song sounded like, and was that even a good song? Because neither of us remember it. One thing I do kind of remember about it is that I think it sounded somewhat similar to Seeing Through the Eyes of a Cupcake. Maybe that's why we titled it that, the working title, of course, being The Cupcake Song. But I'm not entirely sure. I remember it being like a beat-driven rap song, question mark? I don't really know. But yeah, the one thing that exists of that song is the GarageBand project file. So that still exists on like Thomas's hard drive, but none of the files actually exist for it. So it's just that file itself. So the song is completely lost. But I just wanted to mention that real quick because yes, we did try to record more stuff that school year, but it just wasn't meant to be, I suppose. And soon summer came rolling in. So in the summer of 2014, Thomas and I decided to start a new band called the Lamos, which was the name that he came up with. And yeah, I don't really know why we decided to start a new band. I think we just wanted to distance ourselves from the Sensitive Nachos. But this new band, the Lamos, was once again just us two with GarageBand drums. And the difference really was that we were strictly a pop punk band. But unlike most pop punk bands, or most bands in general, we actually never got together and practiced in the same room. What we would do is Thomas would write a song, he'd record all of his parts, get it all perfect from his end, then he would send it to me via email, and then I would record my bass over to what he had recorded, and then I'd send it back to him with my bass track. And that's pretty much what we were, like we never played live, we never even practiced in the same room. Again, we were 15 years old, neither of us drove, and we both lived like really far away from each other, so yeah, we pretty much just sent email tracks back and forth. Thomas would write these great pop punk songs, and I would just put a crappy bass guitar to them, and then I'd send them back his way. But yeah, Thomas was writing some amazing songs during this time period. So many great pop punk songs that still have never seen the light of day. It's kind of a shame, honestly. But one Lamo song is actually out there still, available on the internet, which I completely forgot about. And it's funny because I wish I could take it down, but I don't know the Bandcamp information that, yeah, I think it was one of Thomas's accounts because I don't have the information of this account. But yeah, it's still available as of right now, and that song is called Saying Goodbye to Yesterday. Apparently it was released on June 9th, 2014. I remember doing the artwork to it, which is kind of funny. But it was more of like a demo. I think we just threw it up there because why not? But yeah, I really like that song, but I don't like the version that's out. We would eventually re-record it many different times, and each time we would add something new to it. Thomas would eventually add these great harmonies to it, and I came up with this really cool bass part that I still quite like to this day. But the version that's out doesn't have either of those, and it bums me out. Like, I wish that song was out, but just the proper versions. And I still have all the proper versions, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I just wanted to make note of that real quick, that we still have one song as the Lamos out, apparently, as of right now. So, yeah, look for it, people, look for it, or don't. But anyway, so yeah, the Lamos, that was our new band, and we were really trying to record a 6-song EP, I remember. And I was so excited about this EP because I loved the songs Thomas was writing, and I was so passionate about it, and I was ready for this EP to be done and released. Of course, we were just sending tracks back and forth, making minimal progress. But one day, while we were recording the EP, everything seemed to change. For some reason, Thomas decided to listen to Under the Influence again. And suddenly, he was influenced to do the Sensitive Nachos again. So he wanted to completely scrap the Lamos EP and go back to working on the Sensitive Nachos, and I thought he was completely insane. I was like, we're almost done with this EP, these songs are awesome, let's just finish it, then do that. But no, he wanted to go straight to the Sensitive Nachos. I guess Under the Influence really influenced him, to get the band back together. So our plan was to re-record Under the Influence because we were so disappointed in the way it came out. But it was summer vacation, so we couldn't really re-record it. So Thomas decided to invite me over to his house for the first time. And yeah, I remember being kind of almost nervous about it because I didn't really go to friends' houses. I didn't have friends. Thomas was my one friend. And, I lived so far away from him, about 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. And obviously I didn't drive at that time, so I'd have to ask one of my parents. And, my mom was always working. And it just seemed like neither of them ever wanted to be bothered with, doing me a favor like that. I never wanted to put that in their hands either. I always felt very uncomfortable asking people for things. I still do to this day. And I was like, how am I going to get to his house? I really want to go, but I'm just kind of scared to ask my parents. So I think I eventually got the courage to ask my mom, but she was busy or something like that. And the day had come, and I felt really embarrassed because I was like, I don't really have a ride to, go to your house, Thomas. So then Thomas suggested that his grandma can pick me up, which I felt really bad about because, I didn't want her driving 30 minutes out of her way to pick up her grandson's friend. But Thomas was like, no, it's good. So yeah, his grandma came. I remember she came with Nicholas and Thomas. Nicholas is Thomas's younger brother. And yeah, I hopped in the back seat. I believe I gave her some gas money because I felt bad. And yeah, we drove back to Thomas's house. We went up to his room and we proceeded to start recording Under the Influence again. Thomas had recreated all the beats, and I remember us working on songs like Snapchat Will Destroy Us All, Seeing Through the Eyes of a Cupcake, and even Politics Rhymes with Dicks. And yeah, we just had so much fun, re-recording these songs in his room. And they seem to be coming out pretty decent, pretty properly recorded, especially compared to the original Under the Influence release. So I was pretty excited about it. I also remember us doing a little mock video for Snapchat Will Destroy Us All. We were just sitting there, we were standing in Thomas's room with Guitar Hero guitars, and I think he had his real guitar. And we were just jumping up and down, going crazy to the song, recording this video on his webcam on his laptop. And that was going to be our music video for Snapchat Will Destroy Us All. Unfortunately, that footage is also lost, and that never ended up happening. But I remember us doing that video. And of course, we ended that hangout session with us playing Rock Band. Yeah. I vaguely recall singing So What You Want, and Thomas singing a bunch of other great songs, and kicking ass on Rock Band because he's the best. He really is. He's a great Guitar Hero player, especially. Still to this day, whenever you go to the arcades, he just kicks ass in Guitar Hero. But yeah, that will be the last time that I would go to Thomas's house until 2019 or something like that. So yeah, of course, we never ended up finishing re-recording Under the Influence, but eventually school came back around, and we continued to try to re-record it. We just wouldn't give up. We kept trying, and we kept failing. There were some songs that we never even got to. We were just so unhappy with things. But I remember there was one point where I had to steal, or I guess not steal, but borrow my sister's iPhone when she wasn't home to try to re-record I remember the song Everybody Kept Screaming Instrumental, and I remember getting it like perfect. And Thomas was like, "This is too perfect. Like, now I feel pressure." But yeah, I remember us doing that one. But at the same time, we were trying to re-record Under the Influence. Thomas is also writing, a bunch of new TSN songs. I remember White Trash Alien was written in the summer, I believe, because I remember doing a demo in my house for that song, which still exists somewhere. Maybe it'll be released someday. And then Join Us was also written during the new school year of our 10th grade year. So yeah, we just kept trying to re-record Under the Influence, but eventually December came around and things started changing a little bit. Because a couple days before the start of winter break, Thomas writes one of the best songs he's ever written in his life. And that song is Snowblower, the first song off of Sensitive Christmas. And after he writes that song, he comes up with the genius idea. He says, "Why don't we put out a Christmas EP?" And that's what we did. And suddenly, we stopped trying to re-record Under the Influence. Finally. We finally realized that it's perfect the way it was, and that it was time to move on to something new. And that's what A Sensitive Christmas was all about. Now, the one problem is that Thomas came up with the idea literally like a day before winter break. So he's like, well, I guess we can't really do any rap songs, so how about we just make it an acoustic EP? And yeah, so that's what it became. So essentially, we were never in the same room when we recorded these songs, which is really obvious. I'll get to it why in a second. But yeah, Thomas would write these amazing pop punk songs, record them alone in his room, get all of his harmonies perfect, and then he would send me over the finished mixed track, and then I would add whatever vocals I needed to add, and then I would send him over the finished mixed track, and then the song was done. So that's how we recorded this EP. It was pretty much all recorded during winter break, with the exception of his parts in Snowblower, which, obviously was still recorded at his house, but technically it was recorded a couple days before winter break. So yeah, we decided to stick to an acoustic pop punk formula for this EP, which I think was a great idea. And yeah, the songwriting on this EP is just incredible. Thomas, once again, just kicks ass. The songwriting is amazing, and his vocals sound so good. His harmonies are just perfection. But I'll get to all that when we start talking about individual songs. And I also want to make a quick note that there actually was one Christmas rap song that Thomas wrote and recorded all by himself. The working title for it was Cider Cider Put It Inside Her, which actually I named because that was one of the lines that he wrote in the song. But yeah, this song, it was kind of like a funky rap song. It was just him, but he, once again, he just goes off. It's actually one of his best rap performances in the band. Sadly, the song is still unreleased, but maybe someday it'll get released. He didn't want it on the EP because it was just so much different than the rest of it. I thought, hey, why don't we just throw it on at the end? But he didn't want to do that because it was like a rap song. The rest of the EP is just like acoustic pop punk. So he was kind of right about that, but I really like that song that he wrote by himself, and I just wanted to make note of it real quick. Anyways, let's start talking about the songs. There's only 3 of them, but I bet you I'll be spending 40 minutes talking about 3 songs. Anyway, the first one is called Snowblower. Like I said earlier, I think this is one of the best songs Thomas has ever written in his life. I remember when he showed me this song, I was just completely blown away. Everything about it was just so tunefully melodic. His harmonies are just amazing in this song. Everything about this song I just absolutely love. I don't know what it is, but it's just it's so short and sweet. And the lyrics are utterly ridiculous, but I just love the melodies in this song. And yeah, I love this song. I cannot stress that enough. And I just want to say that all 3 of these songs were written exclusively by Thomas Bjorkstrand. I had nothing to do with the lyrics or the songwriting process. They were all just Thomas alone in his bedroom. And I think he just kicks ass in this EP. Some of the best songs he's ever written are on this EP. It's only 3 songs, but what a fantastic batch of 3 songs. In my opinion, at least. It's not everybody's cup of tea. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the lyrics to this song because they're just so bizarre and out there. And I recently came across a site that does meanings behind songs. I don't know if it's AI produced or what, but they did one for this song, and I gotta say, I love the way they interpret this song. They interpreted this song as being like a feminist anthem, a song that uses satire to criticize America's sexual exploitation of quote-unquote attractive women. I don't remember exactly what they said, but I really liked their article is what I'm saying. But to be honest, and I'm kind of speaking for Thomas here, I don't think he wrote that. I don't think he wrote this song with all that in mind. In reality, this song was realistically written by a 15-year-old boy who used crude humor to make himself laugh alone in his bedroom. But I love their article nonetheless. But anyway, this song, I remember him showing it to me, and I got really excited. And he had actually given me one line in the song to sing, and the line was, "Got all the moms on my caller ID. Got all the moms, and they're coming after me." And he told me, like, just do something with that line. I don't care what you do, just make sure you use your voice to do it. And at the time, I remember telling him, I was like, I'm gonna rap it. And that was my original idea. And I wanted to try it at school, but there just wasn't enough time because it was gonna be winter break the next day. So yeah, but I remember keeping that in mind. I was like, I'm gonna try rapping it. And originally I was gonna go like, "Got all the moms on my caller ID." Like, I was gonna literally rap it. But then, I was sitting with the track alone in my room. Winter break had just started. I was getting ready to work on this song. And I decided to sing the line instead. And I remember being so nervous about it because it was my first time trying to actually sing. Like on Under the Influence, I kind of did like a rough, raspy kind of voice, more of like a punk kind of voice. But for this song, I was like, I want to try to actually sing for this, which I never really knew I could actually sing. I can't really actually sing, but I can kind of get away with it in certain keys. And this song, I don't know, it just fit the key, I guess. And yeah, it came out sounding pretty good to my ear. And I was so nervous to show Thomas because he was kind of harsh back in those days. I mean, like if he didn't like something, he'd let you know. But if he liked something, he would let you know as well. And I was so nervous sending him this song. I was like, oh, is he going to hate this? Is he going to make fun of me for like actually singing? I was so nervous. I remember sending it to him and I just didn't even want to check my phone. But it turns out he loved it. And he actually was so supportive of it. He's like, I never knew you could like sing like that. And yeah, it was a great feeling because it was like, wow, I kind of made him proud there. And that was my first time ever actually singing on a recording, I always say. Because like I sang on Under the Influence, but it was more like a punk kind of style. But like, yeah, like this song was the first time I tried like actually singing in my life. And yeah, I'll always remember that about this song. My first time trying to actually sing, whatever that means. And I also remember him suggesting taking out his harmonies in this song so I could do them now. And I was like, please no. I can never do your amazing harmonies, and I don't even want to try to do them. So yeah, luckily we didn't go through with that. But that's just me singing that one line in this song, and it's also me like doing a little woohoo thing at the end, or whatever I say at the end of the song. I always liked adding little things like that in. But yeah, that's Snowblower for you. Still love this song to this day, even though the lyrics are a little out there. But yeah, one thing that I just realized that I haven't discussed yet is the recording setup for this EP. So of course, all of Thomas's parts were recorded on his iPhone, at his house, and apparently he had this acoustic guitar that would always go out of tune whenever he would start playing. And that's one thing that always annoyed him about this EP, is that he always hears that out of tune guitar, which to me, like I don't even really hear it that much. And, sometimes I do hear it, but it doesn't bother me at all because my ears don't go to it. Like it's such a lo-fi recording that nobody's paying attention to the acoustic guitar. Especially because everybody's paying attention to Thomas's amazing vocal performance and amazing melodies on this EP. It's like nobody cares about like a slightly out of tune acoustic guitar. At least that's how I feel. Maybe some people do care. But yeah, after he was done with all of his parts, he would obviously send the track over to me. And then I would add whatever parts I had to add. And my setup was a little bit different. I used an M-Audio Producer USB microphone. And instead of Mixcraft, I used Reaper as my DAW for this EP, and yeah, that was pretty much my setup. And it's kind of funny because we had such vastly different microphones that you could really tell the difference. I didn't really know how to use my producer USB mic, but I tried my best. I did a lot of like double tracking or even like quadruple tracking on this EP because I just thought that sounded better because I wasn't a very good singer. But yeah, and I knew nothing about compression, EQ, reverb. I mean, we both knew nothing about that stuff. But I will say that I really like the way Thomas mixed his tracks. His harmonies are like the perfect volume, and he really did a great job at recording them. It's a very lo-fi recording, but I think this one is actually pretty decently mixed for what it is. Oh yeah, another really funny thing about this EP is that originally Thomas wanted me to play electric bass on the songs. Yes, electric bass. Me being a terrible bass player with no proper way of recording the bass and no knowledge of like low end or anything like that. He wanted me to record electric bass on these acoustic songs. And I remember attempting it for one of the songs, and it just sounded so bad. I had this ugly, trebly sound. It sounded terrible with the acoustic. I don't know, like it just sounded so bad. And I remember telling him, like, it sounds terrible. And Thomas was like, I don't care. I want it on the EP. So I had to lie to him because he was just so persistent. So I had to lie and say, oh, I dropped my bass amp and now it won't work. I'm sorry, I can't record bass to these songs. And I guess he believed it. So yeah, that's like probably the best decision I ever made in my life, honestly, was lying to Thomas. They say you shouldn't lie, but that lie saved us. Because this EP would have sounded terrible with my crappy, trebly electric bass tone. But yeah, that's another little funny little tidbit that I just remembered. But anyway, let's get back to the songs. Track 2 is I Almost Killed a Kid for Christmas. Wow, what a title. Where does that come from, you may ask? Actually, my dad, believe it or not. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting shotgun, my dad was driving, and he was at a stop sign. We had just gotten out of the bank, and he was going to be making a left turn onto Little Road. So, he was watching the incoming traffic, waiting for his turn to go. So, he kept looking left, and he was about to go. He's like, okay, there's no more cars coming, let me go. But there was a kid on a bike who was coming on his right. And obviously my dad was watching the incoming traffic, so he didn't even think to look over to his right. So yeah, he goes to go, and he nearly hits this kid on this bike. And the kid, I think he like flipped him off or something, or gave him like a dirty look and shook his head. And the kid just like rode away on his bike. And I remember my dad whispering, I almost killed a kid for Christmas. And I don't know why, but that really stuck with me. And I remember telling Thomas about that whole situation. And then Thomas responded with this song. And it's so perfect that that situation happened while we just so happened to be working on this EP. I mean, we were only working on this EP for like 4 or 5 days, but this situation inspired a song off of it. Yeah, I remember my dad saying those words, and I was like, that would make a pretty cool song title. And I told Thomas about it, and like I said, he went and wrote this song. And the cool thing about this song is that it parodies Joy to the World, and then it goes into parodying Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And I think that's pretty genius. I mean, Thomas, such a creative guy, and this song is definitely no exception. And for a band called the Sensitive Nachos, these lyrics sure are damn insensitive. I mean, these lyrics are harsh as hell. And yeah, like I don't have words to describe just like the crude vulgarity of these lyrics, but yeah, they're definitely out there for sure, and they definitely keep with the theme of the Sensitive Nachos. And for this song, Thomas didn't really have any parts for me. He was just like, do the backing vocals that I do and it'll be fine. So that's what I did. So yeah, the backing vocals are Thomas and then me. So I think you can really tell which ones are me because of, once again, the audio quality is so vastly different because I used a completely different microphone than he was using, because obviously these songs were recorded in our separate bedrooms. We were not together while we recorded them, so that's why it sounds like that. But yeah, one thing I will say about a part in this song is like I do a really strange like scream towards the end, but it's like almost like a gurgling, whispering scream. I don't even know what it is. I remember doing it by accident and keeping it in the recording because it just sounded so strange. And yeah, so that's me doing that really weird, strange scream at the end, whatever you even want to call it. But yeah, I really like this song. Again, I don't really add much to it, but I don't really need to because Thomas he kills it. I mean, no pun intended, he kills it. Did I really just say that? But yeah, this is a goofy one, but it's a cool one, I think. Anyway, next song, track 3, All I Want for Christmas Is You. Now, you may have noticed that on streaming services, this song is actually just called All I Want for Christmas. And that's because we use this free distributor called RouteNote to distribute our music to Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff. And they had an issue with us calling the song All I Want for Christmas Is You. They said that we couldn't put out songs that were the same titles as popular songs. So they were claiming that we had called our song that because of the Mariah Carey song, All I Want for Christmas Is You. And I swear, that was never the intention. I don't know where they got that from. But yeah, to me, All I Want for Christmas Is You is a very generic, bland title. It's not like the song was called Smells Like Teen Spirit or something like that. That's very distinct. But yeah, they had an issue with it, so I had to change it to All I Want for Christmas. Yeah. So that's kind of a funny little tidbit about this song. But yeah, this song was the last one recorded and written for the EP. I will say that all the songs were actually written and recorded in the order that they appear on the EP. So the first one was Snowblower, then I Almost Killed a Kid, then the last track we worked on was this one. And once again, I think this is one of the best songs Thomas has ever written. I think this is just such a perfect, lovely little pop-punk Christmas ditty. I love this song. I really, really love this song. I love Thomas's charming lyrics, and his harmonies are just so on point in this song. Especially during the chorus. He almost reminds me of Dexter Holland at times. He just sings them so high. I don't know how he gets that high, but the harmonies are just so amazing in this song. Yeah, and I don't know. I just really like this one. Now, the interesting thing about this track is that Thomas actually wrote me a verse to sing on this one. And what he did was he sent me the finished song, but it was just his parts. And then he sent me the lyrics that he wanted me to sing during just this empty bit of music. So on the version he sent, it was just acoustic guitar playing during my verse. And he was like, just come up with something and sing it. And yeah, so I had to pretty much come up with my own melody to the words that he wrote for me. So that's what I did. Again, I didn't really know if he had one in mind, but later on he said oh, that's not really what I had in mind, but that's good. It works. So yeah, I came up with a melody, but obviously the lyrics are all Thomas to this song. So that's me singing the second verse there. Once again, the drastic mic difference is pretty strong in this song. But I remember going for more of a hushed J Mascis, double-tracked feel to my verse. And that was, once again, I was trying to actually sing for the first time. Obviously, I originally tried that on Snowblower. But yeah, the melody to my verse, that was, I guess, my doing. Same with, my melody and my Snowblower part. But yeah, I've always really liked this song. But at the time, I felt pretty embarrassed to be singing the lyrics that Thomas wrote for me because I was not a lovey-dovey kid like Thomas. I don't know why I just said lovey-dovey, but, he always, had a girlfriend, and he was, very kind of, pop-punk and sang about relationships and stuff like that. I was more of this, shy, awkward kid, really into, political punk. I don't know, these lyrics just were not my style at that time. So I had to do something to let people know that it was a little bit out of my comfort zone. So that thing, that text-to-speech you hear at the end of the song, I actually put in there. So that thing I added using Google's text-to-speech option, which is pretty much just you type in what you want the computer to say, and then it will say it in its robot voice, essentially. So that's what I did. And what I wrote was, T. Hamas made Colby sing this song, so you can fuck off because he's working 60 a week. Which is obviously reference to the Descendants, who we both loved, the song I'm Not a Loser. So I remember adding that to the end of this song, and Thomas finding it pretty funny. But yeah, that was my doing. But yeah, that's All I Want for Christmas Is You. Again, just pretty much a perfect pop song. The brilliance of Thomas Bjorkstrand cannot be overstated, in my opinion. Love this song. So that's the EP for you. So yeah, we pretty much worked on this EP really from December 21st to December 24th, I would say. But then again, Snowblower was written December 18th, I believe. So yeah, it was written pretty much right before Christmas. And I remember Christmas morning, us putting it out. Obviously, we were both just enjoying our Christmas from each other's respected house, but us kind of messaging back and forth yeah, the EP's out. Even though nobody really cared because we had no fan base, but this EP was actually somewhat respected. I remember Thomas's girlfriend at the time liked it, and some other people kind of thought it was pretty cool and catchy. But once again, it wasn't a big release or anything like that. Maybe 4 people listened to it. But yeah, I've always really loved this EP. I think this may be our best release. I mean, it's just 3 pretty much perfect little pop punk songs by Thomas. And I really like this EP. Still to this day, I think it holds up really well. As far as the EP title goes, Thomas came up with the title A Sensitive Christmas, which I really like. And as far as the artwork goes, I came up with the artwork. I did it using Microsoft Paint once again. I remember like changing the colors and then just like making a bunch of dots to like indicate that it's snow, but it's like colorful snow. Get it? And then I made obviously that snowman with a mohawk. I always liked drawing mohawks on random things / people. And then the nacho logo is also on the bottom half of the snowman. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention in the last episode, which I actually left in the comments, so make sure you guys are reading the comments, is the inspiration behind the Sensitive Nachos logo, that crying nacho. That actually came from like a random picture that Thomas had found online. And when he was originally putting up like songs from Under the Influence on Reverb Nation, he just used that picture as like the album artwork. So yeah, that picture is the inspiration behind the Nacho logo, which I linked it in the previous video's comments. So if you're interested in seeing the inspiration for it, it's pretty much a direct ripoff of whoever did that original drawing. But yeah, I just wanted to make note of that in this episode, just in case some people don't read the comments. But yeah, so that's the Sensitive Christmas EP. Again, one of my favorites, perhaps our best release, realistically speaking. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say about it. I really like this one. Next week, we'll be discussing Prime Galime, our second full-length record. So stay tuned for Prime Galime. See you guys next time. This has been CJ McKenna signing out. Bye.